Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Just want to make sure that I'm close enough so you can hear me because I don't have a special microphone. How are you? I am doing great. I have not been on social media for I don't even know how long. It feels like it's been a long time and I don't miss it at all. In fact, I feel like I've regained my life back. I'm kind of living in the real world so much more now, and things are progressing, including making money. I made more amount of money offline last month than I have online in a while, although I worked so much harder physically, but also it feels good for my body. There are definitely days where I'm just like, I'm so exhausted and I just need a break. But most of the time, it feels good and I feel my body getting fitter and stronger with every job that I do, and it's just been really good. Out of the one post that I mentioned that I put up in my local community in the last video, I think I mentioned it, I have gotten house sitting, which I'm doing right now, paid house sitting. I've gotten gardening work, which has been amazing, and also I got a job at a dairy milking goats. So, and that is getting into farming is really exactly what I've been wanting to do. So I'm really enjoying seeing the process of behind the scenes, what happens when you milk goats, and just learning while earning money and on the job. And my boss seems really lovely, and everyone that works there seem just really down to earth, beautiful people. So everything is working out so well. But yeah, I have been pretty tired, so today is kind of a day off. Obviously I'm house sitting, so I'm still on the job, but I'm just trying to make the most of not having to go to work. I've been completely flat out for the whole of December, which I needed to do because I had big expenses coming up, like rego for my car and just bills, so, and just catching up financially, still repaying the rent and all that kind of stuff. So I needed to pull my finger out of my ass and just get jiggy with it. So that's been really good. For today's video, I just really wanted to talk about the difference of living in a city versus living in the country. Because there is such a massive difference. Hi, Indy. Hi, Snuggle. The first things that I noticed when I moved to Nimbin, which is close to where I live now, it's a small little country town in Australia, and it's known for its hippies and weed, and just, it's a colourful tiny little town, and you get people from all walks of life, and you know, there are some people that have wealth behind them, some people that don't, some people that are completely poor, there are people living on the streets, but it's all visible, and everyone kind of, the community makes it work. It's just so amazing. Like, that's one thing that I definitely noticed. It was kind of confronting seeing the difference, because I guess in a city everyone tries to pretend to be a certain level, look a certain way, and just, I'm gonna put my feet up, and you know, it's very ego driven. Well, in the town that I live in, while there is still some ego and, you know, nothing's ever perfect, the people are so much more grounded in themselves, down to earth, friendly. You know, it's so often that I'll go into town just to pick up something quickly and I run into people, and, you know, I don't get home until 2 hours later because I'm just sitting or standing chatting to people and just catching up. And that's so beautiful, and I really love it. That's one thing that I really noticed in the city, was that people did not look at each other in the eyes and didn't smile at each other. It was just, I don't know, everyone is so closed off. While in the country, everyone's so much more open to each other. There's a lot more kindness and generosity, and knowing that you're kind of relying on each other. So we've had bushfires here, we've had flooding, really bad, and drought as well. And, you know, I guess people expect that things are going to happen and you're going to need help at some stage. And people are so much more willing to help each other out, to offer help, to just be there for you. You know, even me and my partner were just always surprised at the generosity of our neighbors, always offering to help out. You know, I know that if I was in trouble, I can pick up the phone, call them, and we have, when we needed to put one of our goats down, you know, and we don't have a gun, so we had to call a neighbor to come and put our goat down who was suffering really badly. And, you know, he could have easily said no because he had some problems with his body at the time, and he could have easily said no, but he just came straight over. And it was just, it just amazes me how people are really here for each other, you know, especially when you find your group of people that you get along with, and everyone's just super kind and open-hearted. And that's kind of the world that I really want to be living in. And I mean, that doesn't mean that I don't have space for humanity, and all of our emotions of, you know, the darker emotions as well. And, you know, there are times that I don't want to talk to anyone and don't want to be around anyone, and that's okay as well. And I think that's a lot more, you're not expected to be anything that you're not here. And I think that's beautiful. One of the most amazing things that I experienced when I first came to Nimbin and moved to Nimbin was, I don't know, I didn't even realize, but I used to wear black all the time. And I moved to Nimbin, and what I noticed was everyone was wearing so much color, and none of the women were wearing makeup, but they looked so beautiful. They were glowing with radiance and happiness, and you could see this, their eyes were smiling and twinkling with aliveness. A lot of the time I'd have to catch myself staring at them. And then, you know, it's not like everyone's a supermodel or anything like that. It was just natural, beautiful beauty that radiated out from the inside. Just like this vitality and health as well. And just this aliveness. That was something that I noticed. So I tried wearing colorful clothes and kind of seeing if I could get that as well. But it's honestly, now that I've been living here, I think it's 4 years, it's a process. And the processes of unconditioning yourself from all that is not real to what is real. And that's why one thing that I love about living in the country is that it will dismantle any lies that you've been told about the world, any lies about nature, any lies about what it means to be human and humanity. And you're just confronted with such a deep truth. And it is confronting. It is really, really confronting, because in that process, you have to face yourself. And I guess an example of that I think an example of that is when I moved out onto the land, starting the farm. You know, I knew that death was going to be part of it. You know, I'm not that ignorant. But the brutality that can come with death, or the goriness, or how much death can come at once, is so confronting, and it grounds you in nature and in reality. When we lost all 3 of our goats in quick succession when they were sick, when we lose baby chicks to snakes that get into the enclosures, the amount of snakes, and also just the beauty. There is so much wildlife around here. There is so many insects around here. And my partner's family arrived down on our farm a couple of days ago, and they were commenting on how loud it was with all the insects and birds. And you know, they were from the city, from the Gold Coast, and they were commenting on how loud it was with all the natural sounds, leaves blowing, insects, you know, roosters crowing, and just amazed at how many insects there were. And I just had to explain to them that, you know, my partner found this huge dead dragonfly, which we're keeping because it's so spectacular, but they were just so amazed, fascinated, and scared by it. And I had to explain to them that when you're in a country, when there's a lot of insects, when there's a lot of wildlife, when there's a lot of noise and a lot of stuff, that natural stuff, you're living in a live ecosystem, versus when you're living in an apartment or a small house in the city. You're spraying everything with chemicals, killing all the insects, so you hardly see any of them. Glyphosate is used in gardens to keep lawns pristine. It is a dead ecosystem when you don't have the insects, the wildlife. You're living in a dead ecosystem. You're on your way to dying in that ecosystem. But when you're in the country, when things are wild, when you have weeds, plants, you know, unruliness, the unruliness of nature, you're living in aliveness. When you have, every single day I see birds that I've never seen before, and I'm like, where the hell are all these birds coming from? There's just so many different varieties. All the insects, how many spiders there are at home, and the amount of cobwebs that I need to clean. And I don't feel bad about them because there's just so many. Even in the plants and the trees and the shrubs, there's just so many spiders. I don't use chemicals or anything like that, but sometimes, you know, I don't do it often, but sometimes it just gets a little too much and you start getting little cobwebs dangling in places, and I just want to, you know, just take a brush or a vacuum and just vacuum it all up. But they always come back because there's so many of them. So living in an alive ecosystem affects you. It affects me so deeply. My psyche, it has grounded me in reality. It has shown me the truth of the world. And it makes me see through the bullshit lies that we're told in cities so much clearer. Hey, sweetheart. But most of all, it reminds me that I'm a part of something bigger. You know, it's not just me in the world or others. It's like I'm a part of this greater web, of this ecosystem, and it is my responsibility to contribute to it as positively as I can. How can I become a guardian of the land? How can I plant fruits and veggies in line with nature instead of out of line with nature? How can I not use chemicals, which we don't use chemicals? How can I not spray with glyphosate and still get rid of the weeds that are taking over too much, you know, in the places that we want to use for other things? You know, how can I do things differently? And it's always this puzzle of how can I live in tune with nature and do things in tune with nature, instead of trying to dominate and control nature. And that has a massive effect on mental health, and spiritual development, and the relationship that you have with the world and with yourself. It's a much deeper relationship. It adds depth because you're always kind of communicating with the land and realizing that you're living on a living planet that you're contributing to. You know, the stars are brighter at night. I remember in the city, there was one time that I was coming home really late. Again, at night, I think it was about 10 o'clock. I got home from my corporate marketing job. And for the first time, I think, in years, I looked up in the night sky and I noticed the stars. And I just realized I'm living on a planet. And I couldn't stop staring at the stars because I was like, how could I not look up? How could I not have this shift of perspective that I'm such a tiny little thing, and what I feel that my problems are, they're just so small in reality, because I'm just a tiny little dot in a whole vast universe. And here in the country, there isn't as much pollution or light pollution. You know, I know that there are a few developments happening in the little town, and people are very against light pollution because of the night sky, because of the bugs that navigate with the moon and the stars, and are otherwise swayed by the lights and get off course from where they're meant to be. There's always this reminder that you are a part of something bigger in the country, and it's so refreshing and puts you in your place and cuts through your bullshit and smashes your ego. And when you have the opportunity to have your ego smashed, your unhealthy ego smashed, and be humbled, that is one of the greatest things that you can get out of life, because that's when you return to truth. It's when you return to your true self, and it just it grounds you in reality. Another thing that I love about the country is that it encourages moments of slowness a lot more. The culture of a city is busyness, is work, is getting out there. And while that still exists here, there is so much beauty that just calls your attention all the time that you are forced to slow down in such magnificent ways. And an example of this is sometimes when I'm driving to work at 5 in the morning and the sun is just coming up and you see the beautiful sunrise. And even though you're on your way to work, you're just like, wow, I'm so grateful. And you just feel like this immense sense of gratitude. Even yesterday when I was driving back from my house over here to house sit in the afternoon, and I saw the most magnificent sunset ever. And I was driving through the most beautiful countryside, and I was just like, whoa, it is so beautiful, living in a place that just has so much natural beauty. You know, just all the plants, all the animals, the colorfulness of the people. It all just makes you stop, and a lot of the time it evokes a sense of awe, and you slow down to notice. You want to notice, and I love that about the country. You want to notice all the beauty. And for anyone that has been, you know, working towards being more in their feminine energy and understanding more of their feminine energy, you'll know that slowing down is a crucial, not to be missed, part of that. So being able to slow down, even when during those times when I'm busy, allows me to tune into that feminine energy within myself, and just notice the beauty of living, notice the beauty of this planet, notice the beauty of being in this body and experiencing the world through this body. And that's something that I absolutely love about where I live and the country. And I honestly don't see myself ever living in a city again. To me, it feels fake. In nature, you know, there's so much chaos and unruliness and different shapes and patterns, and it's just starting to rain on me now. Like, there's just so much unpredictability. In a city, there's just like, it's built on wanting to have order and control and structure and unnatural shapes, and all the houses are a particular shape. I wish I could show you this house. It's a hexagonal house. It has like a hexagonal room. I'm not going to show it to you because it's not my house, and I don't want to invade this family's privacy by showing all of their belongings online. It's not my place. So, but everything is made in such a more natural way, and the shape of this lounge room, the hexagonal shape, is just, I walked in and I just felt so, like, I don't know, it just felt like how a room should be. It's so homey, and it makes sense energetically, especially for a family, because they can always see where the kids are, and everyone's always participating in each other's lives. And it's not a big house at all, but I love that because, you know, you get to spend, they have a huge deck out here, and they said that they spend a lot of time out here. They have gardens, they have animals, which I'm looking after while they're away, and just so much nature. You know, this is, I think they said, a 100-acre property, so they have so much land, so much nature. The views when it's not raining are just magnificent as well. And you know, why would you want to live in a little shoebox of a house, or a big one even, when you can live in a smaller place, create connection with your family in that smaller place, but then use the natural world as your lounge room and be out in nature as much as possible. And that's actually something that I've noticed I've been doing so much more of now that I'm not on social media. I've been spending so much time in nature. There's so many times where I'm just sitting in the house and I'm like, ugh, this is boring. And I just go out and water the plants in the garden, or go play with the animals, or go walk on the grass barefoot, or just go for a little walk on the property, and I'm spending so much more time outside than I do indoors. I don't like the idea of a big house at all. I love the idea, you know, when I lived in my van, I was amazed at how much I didn't miss living in a house. I loved living in a van. It was a tiny cubby house. I had only the things that I really needed, and I made it super cozy and comfortable. It was like a little adult cubby house, and I felt so snug in there, and that was where I slept, where I ate. But other than that, me and Falky, my dog, were always out in nature, walking, exploring, seeing sights, traveling, adventuring, and that was beautiful. And that's when I decided I never want to live in a house that is too big. I don't want to be spending too much time cleaning. I want to be outside more, and just the idea of these mega mansions that people aspire to have just didn't make sense for me anymore, because I don't want to spend time indoors. I want to spend time outside, and I want my ideal house. Me and my partner, we're always looking at little cabins online, is tiny, cozy, a fireplace, a little kitchen, just cozy. And even with kids, like, we would love to have kids. You know, I want it to be cozy, where we are all on top of each other, and just being a family instead of everyone in separate rooms, and just not, you know, allowing social media to parent the kids when we should be. Like, I don't want that for my family. So yeah, it's just, the country has turned my world upside down, shattered my beliefs about what I thought was true. And one of the last points that I'll make, and there are so many different things that I love about living in the country, but one of the last points that I'll make is that people become more valuable based on skill in the country. So in the city, it just seems like the conditioning that we receive is how much money, the status that we have, and just kind of like those materialistic things. While in the country, the more skills that are useful to others that you have, that you can use, and that are useful to you, the more valuable you become. And the more skills that I start to acquire while living in the country, the more confident I become in myself, the more capable I become. And that breeds confidence. And so that has been a big shift for me, because I came from living in the city, working in corporate marketing, and that kind of became my value, based on where I lived and, you know, just the status and the money. But here, that's not really the case. It's more about the type of a person you are, and also the skills that you have. So if you have gardening skills, if you have beekeeping experience, if you have knowledge on woodwork, and, you know, or how to put down an animal humanely, or what else, knitting and sewing, or felling trees, or laboring, having an able body that can do hard work, that becomes really valuable to yourself and to others. So I've noticed myself acquiring more and more skills out in the country, wanting to learn more. Like, we've just become beekeepers. We're learning about beekeeping, pottery making, and just everything to do with animals, and learning how to keep different animals, and farming. So you just acquire so many more skills if you fully immerse yourself and immerse yourself in the community. And I know that the friends that we have that have been living in the country, that have wisdom of the land, that have a knowledge on what to do in certain situations, those are the ones that you want to have in your phone book, just to make sure that, you know, because if something happens, you can always call them up and ask them for advice. So they become really valuable and really respected. And me and my partner kind of like the newbies in town that are still asking a lot of questions and wanting to learn, and still kind of getting acquainted even after 4 years. But we've made so many strides. Well, it's been a year for him. I've been here in the area about 4 years, I think. But on the farm, it's only been on the land. Like that, being on the land changes everything. That requires so many skills and skill sets, and you're just constantly learning, and it's so much fun, and you gain so much confidence in yourself. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thank you so much for being here. If you do like it, please subscribe to my channel if you want to see more videos. And if there's any topics that you would like me to talk about, please let me know in the comments section below. And if you have any things that you've noticed about living in the city that you kind of want to share, or living in the country that you want to share, please leave them in the comment section below. I would love to read them, and I'm sure others would too. I love reading comments, so please leave them, and it helps the algorithm. So yeah, I will see you in the next video. Thank you for being here.